So, thinking ahead in carp fishing is vital, and it can play an important part in your success. Even though it's a nice summer's day as we're sitting here recording this, I'm already starting to think ahead about where I'll be fishing later in the year, and in particular my winter sessions. I really love my winter fishing. Often the banks are quieter, the fish can look fantastic in the winter colours, in the clearer water, and it can be really good fun being out there and enjoying some great fishing. However, I tend to approach things a little bit different to what I do in the warmer months. I'm not always wanting to pile lots of bait in, but I'm often looking to still get fish feeding and trying to create some kind of competitive situation if I can. And I also still want to be offering the fish some kind of food value if possible. The last few winters I've had some really great fishing, and a large part of that I think has been because I've been able to combine the high attract sort of side of things with the longer term food value and actually the fish getting some kind of value from what they're eating. And to me, there's a couple of real standout products in the Nutrabaits range that help with that. So a lot of my fishing throughout the year, I use Nutrabaits Trigga Ice. It's one of my favourite freezer baits and I've had some great success with it. And I continue to use that through into the winter months. But I've also had some fantastic results in the colder weather in particular using Nutrabaits Tecni Spice, and it's one of the best single hook baits I've ever had, and it really seems to be great from a high attract point of view. So a couple of years ago when I was thinking about that particular winter's fishing, I thought I wonder if there's a way I can combine the high attract side of Tecni Spice with the food value of Trigga Ice, and you know, I've been feeding that into the lakes potentially for a period of time, and the fish are hopefully recognising it. So what I actually came up with was a way of using both products together, and that involves basically taking some freezer bait, and I've got a bag of Trigga Ice here, and I've just popped it into a little polystyrene bag. One just quick tip before I show you what I'm going to do, it's worth just making sure that this is actually airtight so there's no holes in it. I had a few disasters the first few times I tried this, where I had a bag with a slight hole in, I poured some liquid into there and it ended up all over the floor. So always just worth checking that the bag is tight. I'm then going to take some of the bait soak complex, the Tecni Spice. Now this is where I think the real magic happens with Tecni Spice. It really seems to be something that just attracts fish and gets them feeding in the cold weather. And so all I'm going to do is take a little bit of that bait soak complex and just pour it into the bag. Now usually I'd do this as soon as I took the bait out of the freezer, and that would probably be a day or two before I was actually planning to go fishing. And the reason for that is that as the bait starts to thaw out, it'll actually draw in some of the bait soak complex, and it tends to go more, it'll pull it further into the bait than it would just by adding it later. It's then just a case of blowing some air into the bag, just giving them a quick shake around for a few seconds, and then I tend to leave them, and I'll come back and I'll give them a shake a couple of times over the next sort of few hours, the first few hours. They'll then be ready to go, and what I've got when I get down to the lake, if I feed perhaps 30-40 baits around where I'm fishing, I've got that Tecni Spice bait soak complex coming up and going into the water column, hopefully pulling fish down, and when they get there, I've actually got the long-term sort of food value rather than just a high attract single hook bait. It's something that seems to have made a real difference, and I've had some fantastic days fishing over the last few winters that I'm not sure I would have had otherwise.